When the whole world was falling at his feet, he himself was barely holding on. One of the most desirable men on the planet, two-time Oscar winner, heartthrob, and blockbuster star Brad Pitt turned out to be far from the flawless image portrayed on glossy magazine covers. Behind his dazzling smile, marble abs, and trademark half-smile lay tears, breakdowns, alcohol, and fear. And only now, decades later, has the actor begun to lift the veil on his personal tragedy. On the New Heights podcast, Pitt unexpectedly dropped some revelations that shocked even his most devoted fans. Looking back on the beginning of his career, he recalled filming Thelma and Louise, where he played the seductive drifter J.D. It would seem that this role was his ticket to Hollywood. But behind the scenes, it was complete chaos. I was dazzled by Geena Davis and Susan Sarandon. I just couldn't say a word. Psychologically, I was broken. It was as if I wasn't acting, but being controlled from outside, Pitt admitted. And this is coming from a man whom millions of women later called the Dream Man. But back then, in the early 90s, Brad was a shy guy from Oklahoma who suddenly found himself in the epicenter of glossy hell, and almost burned up in it. But while his first steps in cinema could still be attributed to nervousness, what began after 2016 was a real nightmare. After his high-profile divorce from Angelina Jolie, Pitt publicly admitted for the first time that he was on the brink. Broken, devastated, crushed. And that's no exaggeration. In a candid interview for the Armchair Expert podcast, the actor admitted that his divorce from Jolie was the final straw that forced him to get down on his knees, both literally and figuratively. I was almost on my knees. It was hell. I just couldn't cope anymore, Pitt said. According to him, it was then that he realized that he was drowning not just his pain in alcohol, but himself. The road to recovery was long and humiliating. Pitt himself admits that he first went to an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting not as an actor, but as a person who had had enough. No cameras, no PR, just him and others like him. It turns out that even Hollywood legends have something to hide. I was afraid that someone would recognize me, but then I realized I had already hit rock bottom. What did I have to lose? Pitt recalls. There, in stuffy rooms with plastic chairs, he cried, remained silent, then cried again. And finally, he began to speak. That is how he described his inner conflict. The Hollywood legend admitted that all these years he had been living not as Brad, but as a brand. He was forced to be flawless, sexy, glamorous, but inside he was decaying. I was tired of being Pitt from the poster. I just wanted some peace and quiet, the actor admits. It all started small, morning runs, no alcohol, yoga, a journal. And then, new shoots, without hangovers or inner turmoil. That's how Pitt began to rebuild himself, piece by piece. Rumor has it that Angelina Jolie's strict control was the catalyst for the breakup. Pitt was literally pushed out of the family, accused of aggression and addiction, but he endured it until the very end. Only after months of silence did the actor decide to speak out. And even then, not immediately in public. He only shared his pain in anonymous groups. There, he cried out that he had been deprived of his right to be a father, that his children were turned against him, and that he dreamed of dying just so he wouldn't have to see his loved ones suffer. Today, Brad Pitt is back at the top. He acts, jokes in interviews, and receives awards. But does he still have that inner steel that once conquered the world? Or is it all just a new facade hiding the same tired and exhausted man? Today, Brad Pitt is back at the top. He's acting, joking in interviews, and receiving awards. But does he still have the steel inside him that once conquered the world? Or is this all just a new facade hiding the same tired and worn-out man? Many believe that his new image is nothing more than a rebranding imposed by his PR team. But you can see it in his eyes. Pitt is no longer the same. He went through hell, and he came back, with a charred soul, but alive. One of Hollywood's most brilliant careers was built on pain, fear, and self-destruction. Brad Pitt is not just an actor, but a man who fell face down in the mud but managed to get back up. He went through a storm that would have broken anyone. And now we know, Behind every beautiful shot there may be a tragedy that cannot be retouched. While the public sighed over his abs, he was drowning in his own despair. While the tabloids wrote about his new hairstyle, he was tearing himself apart inside. And only now has he finally told the truth.